Hi guys, welcome back to Prepared Code. In this channel, I teach how to solve one problem or the other, web development and programming. I also conduct classes on this aspect. So if you have not subscribed to my channel, please help me by hitting the subscription button and turning on the notification bell. So in this video, I will be teaching you how to create a drop-down menu using HTML and CSS. So now the first thing we're going to be doing is to create a folder where we're going to place our HTML file. So let's call it drop down. So now let's go to our text editor and create HTML. Okay, it's already open there. So remember, I'm storing this file inside a drop down. So let's call this let's call it menu.html. So let's add content. Let's call it drop down. Okay, so let's add content. Let's say header. Let's say okay UL. Let's say list. Sorry. Let's say list. Let's create maybe add 5 lists. 5. Let's say this guy is home. Let's say this guy is about. Let's say this guy is contacts. Let's say this guy is boss. Let's say this guy is games. Okay, now we want to add a drop down menu to our spots. So let's see something. I'm gonna create this part we are adding now is the drop down menu for our spots. Let's say football. Let's say we're adding, let's say racing, and let's say boxing. Now let's also add a drop down menu to this guy here. Let's say games. Let's say temporal. Okay, we can add many other games here. So let's continue. Let's give this is the drop down menu. This part of the UL list we are adding, on ordered list we are adding. This part of the unordered list is the sub menu. So what we want to achieve here is once you hover on sports menu, it will show this sub menu. Once you hover on games menu, it will drop down this menu. So let's call this a sub menu. Okay, let's copy this class. Let's call this guy sub menu as well. So let's call this guy the main menu. So let's start styling. Okay, we have added the contents we need, so let's style them now. Let's say we have the header to be, let's say have the header background. Let's give the header background color to be little something like that color. Let's give it height, let's say 60 pixels. Now let's style our body plus our UL. Let's remove padding and margin from them. Let's say margin 0. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be styling is our menu. Let's say the main menu. Let's style the main menu list. Okay, the main menu list, let's float them left. Let's give them height 40 pixels. Let's position them relative. Let's bring them from the top margin 10 pixels, and let's give them background color to be white. So let's give them color. Okay, let's leave their color to be black, and let's set their front weight to 600 as the weight. Okay, so let's give it text align center. Let's remove text. Let's remove the list type to be none. So now let's call the sub menu and make sure that the sub menu is is hidden by default, so let's say display none. Let's say display none. Now let's give the main menu list. Let's give our main menu list hover. Let's say list when you hover on our menu list, and we want the background color to change to something like green once you hover it, and the text to be the color of the text to be white. Okay, that's what we'll have now. So let's see what you have so far before we continue. So okay, see what we didn't give width to our. Okay, let's give it width. Let's give it width to be 15%. Let's give it margin. Let's say margin left should be, let me say 1%. Let's see what you have. Okay, so let's give it line height. Let's say line height to be 40 pixels. Okay, this is what you have. So you see, we hover. Let's give it cursor pointer so it will look more good. You can see now we have our menu set up. So the next thing is to make sure that once we hover on the spots, the sub menu will drop down. When we hover on the game, the same action will be taken. So what we're going to do now is look at here. We see our spots. Let's give our spots a class. Let's say drop. Let's give it a class, something like drop. Let's also give this guy class drop. So we want, once we hover this, their sub menu will be displayed. So we'll call the drop class and say on hover. Once we hover on you, we want the sub menu to be displayed. So sub menu display block. You understand? So now once we hover this, the sub menu will be displayed block. Or something else, we need to style that sub menu. Let's style it. Let's style the sub menu. Let's say the sub menu list. Let's style them by default. Let's give them a different background color. What are we going to give them now? By default, let's just give them a background color should be something gray. Something gray. Let's see what you have. So okay, you see, once you hover on them, they will display. Okay, we'll have their background color. Let's give them a hover event. So once you hover on these guys, we're going to be changing their color like our main list. Okay, so let's say the sub menu, once you hover them, let's give them a color to be red. Color red. Let's make sure they don't have any. Let's remove the list style to be none. Okay, so that's it. When we refresh, you see, once you hover, you see everything is working well. So we can still go on to give it a border bottom to separate them. Let's say 1 pixel solid. Let's give it 23. Okay, so we'll have it. So now you see our drop down is working. So let me explain a little more about the logic behind this. So you understand that you see we hover on these guys, you hover on them and the background colors are changing. So what we did is that once we hover on the spots using this CSS selector, using this guy now, see, once we hover, where do we have that? Okay, see, once we hover on the drop menu, which is the spots and the game, which has the class drop, the spots and the game has the class drop. So what we did is we say once we hover on you, which is the spots and the game, which has class drop, what happens when we hover on you? Call the child element the sub menu. Now you realize that this drop list is a container element for this particular unordered list, which carries the sub menu. So what we did is once we hover on this guy, we'll call the child element and ask the child element to display block. By default, the child element is hidden. So, but once we hover on the parent element, which is the drop with class drop, then the child element is being shown. So that's just the logic behind this drop down menu. So that's it for the drop down menu. I believe you enjoyed the class, and you should stay tuned for the next video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks once again for watching. See you next time on the next video. Goodbye.